Hi, everybody. Welcome back from lunch. This is Pitch Perfect. Will this press kit get you booked? Just so you can all make sure you're in the right room. This panel is really designed for you guys. We're going to be talking about what works and what doesn't work when it comes to EPKs. I think a bunch of you, or I hope a bunch of you in this room, are some of the folks who submitted material for our panelists here to review. I want to let you know that we've actually looked at everything, and we're going to be sharing some highlights throughout the next hour or so. And in a second, I'm going to introduce you to the panelists. We have representatives from 3 very different venues, which is exciting because it should give a really wide breadth and scope to what different people are looking for and what different venues are looking for and why tailoring your material to different people is so important. So that's what we're going to do this hour. Before we get going, though, I want to let everybody introduce themselves. So maybe we'll just go down the line.
Hi, I'm Bobby Asher. I'm the Director of Programming for the Artist Partner Program at the Clarice Smith Performing Arts Center at the University of Maryland.
I'm Georgina Javor. I'm the Assistant Director of Programming here at Jazz at Lincoln Center.
I'm Janis Burley Wilson. I'm the President and CEO of the August Wilson Cultural Center, which is an African-American cultural center.
Thank you. And I'm Katie Simon. I'm the senior producer for Jazz Night in America, which is a Jazz at Lincoln Center, WBGO, and NPR collaboration. So I don't book venues, but I am really familiar with getting a lot of press materials from artists. So I'm going to try to keep my opinions to myself and let everyone else talk, but I might jump in every once in a while. Before we get to any concrete examples, really, of what works and what doesn't work, I'm hoping everybody here on stage can sort of talk actually about your respective venues and maybe talk a little bit about the differences between, you know, what you all are looking for when it comes to booking artists. I'm not sure who wants to go first. Shall I call on somebody?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Get it over with. Hi, everybody. First of all, I want to say I'm really honored to be here and to be amongst all of these wonderful artists and to be included in this discussion. The organization that I work for is the August Wilson Cultural Center. It's a performing arts center. We do a lot of different things. We present a lot of different types of art, different genres. We have 492 seat theater. We also have art galleries. We have a dance studio. We have a lot of kind of classroom, multi-purpose space. I'm also the founder and director of the Pittsburgh International Jazz Festival. I started that festival at another organization, and it followed me to the August Wilson Cultural Center. And the majority of that festival, I guess the performances would be free and open to the public, but in addition to that, there are ticketed performances. So I'm looking for a lot of different kinds of artists for a lot of different things. We also have a wonderful opportunity at the August Wilson Cultural Center to merge genres. For example, we had a visual arts exhibition called Flying Girls, which was a series of sculptures, and it was a sculptural installation, but I commissioned jazz artist Sean Jones to write a suite inspired by the visual art. So it gives us an opportunity to kind of mix things up. And I'm looking for the larger, more established artists. I'm looking for the emerging artists. I'm looking for a lot of different things.
Just go down the line. I work in the programming office here at Jazz at Lincoln Center. We have 3 main venues here on site. One is Rose Theater, which is about 1,100 seats, the Appel Room, 450, and Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola, which is 120 seats. So we're looking for jazz. We book jazz music. We're looking to present jazz in each of those spaces, ranging from big headliner names up to, down to up-and-coming artists just coming out of school or emerging artists on the scene. We have a small team of programmers that review submissions that come in. We take cold call pitches. We take recommendations from other presenters in the market, educators that we talk to, and then we get together almost weekly to discuss what's happening. We have a lot of thematic programming that goes on our main stage season. So for the Rose Theater and Appel Room, we're booking about 16 months in advance, and we're looking at kind of grandiose themes that take on each season, and we're tying a lot of our programming in the smaller spaces to that. We also have a board of directors, being a nonprofit 501c3, so we also have input from them. So it is a team that really works on the programming here at Jazz at Lincoln Center.
Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here as well. The Clarice Smith Performing Arts Center has 6 venues in a sort of traditional-looking performing arts center on a university campus at Maryland, from about a 1,200-seat concert hall all the way down to, small dance theater, 140-seat black boxes. 2 years ago, we formed a public-private partnership through the university where we made an arrangement with a public entity, and the university renovated a building in downtown College Park, which became a restaurant, bar, and entertainment venue called Milk Boy Art House. And it has about a 200-seat cabaret or 500-seat standing venue upstairs, an art gallery, and then a 90-seat jazz club on the bottom floor. And we present now at the Clarice. The Visiting Artist Series is sort of our flagship series, 30 projects in dance, music, and theater every year. And then an orchestra festival in the summer and a student-focused festival every fall. And our jazz programming and contemporary music programming and world music programming all happen now at Milk Boy Art House in a venue that is a better context. Our audience can come and have a food and drink when they're listening to jazz, which I think is terrific. And in the Visiting Artist Series, we do 4 to 6 jazz projects a year, so a very mindful, focused series, obviously as part of a Research One university. We make learning and education and engagement an important part of it. Every artist that comes to the Clarice engages in some way, in particular through the very traditional master class where a jazz artist would come and interact with students in our School of Music, but also across campus. We've put Renee Marie in a dormitory common room singing and telling stories, or engaged jazz artists in other parts of campus talking about the thematic ideas that their music is representing. So that's an important part of what we look for when we book. Really quickly, the other part is we do what we call the Speed of Sound sessions, which is our contemporary music series, and that is music that was written within the last 10 years or has contemporary political or social relevance, and there is sometimes or maybe often some overlap between our jazz programming and that. We have presented what I will call contemporary improvised music in that series as well, so that's another sort of way that we might be relevant here.
So you all have just really illustrated just how different each of the venues you're representing are. This panel is called Will This Press Kit Get You Booked? So I think the first question I have is, how important is a press kit, electronic or otherwise, presumably electronic in 2019, to making a difference in who you're choosing and when you're choosing them and why? Georgina, you want to take that first?
Well, I think, first of all, the artistic excellence needs to be there straight off the bat, but how do we find out that you're that good? I don't think it needs to be a press kit per se, and we use that term kind of very loosely. It could just be that your website is that well laid out that I can find everything that I need, or that your email is that well laid out. But it does need to be clean, easy, to navigate and to figure out all the different parts that we need. So sometimes I'll get an email that's like, I'd love to play the club, here's my website. And it doesn't kind of give me direction into like, these are my best videos, here are 2. These are my best photos. This is my best clip of the best song that I want you to hear, because we don't have time necessarily to listen to 20 things or to watch 20 videos. So I think trying to talk to us in a way that makes it easy for us to navigate the information, whether or not that is a press kit on your website or just the website itself, it is really important to lay out that material very well. So.
I think it also, just to provide a little context, particularly for Janis and I being multidisciplinary presenters, the amount of information coming toward us at any given time can be pretty significant. So if you multiply this room by 5 other genres, that's kind of the sort of drinking from the fire hose that happens. So that brevity and focus is really important to sort of get your first most important or salient points out quickly. And one of the things that I try to do personally is listen to everything that I'm sent as much as I can, and that often means listening on the road. So I would just add having a way to get your music onto a device in the traditional ways is super helpful as well.
I would agree with what both of you said. In our discussions as we were preparing for this session, one of the things I mentioned was that I need to be able to get the information that I need in 2 or 3 steps. If it becomes more than that, just as you said, we don't have a lot of time. We're really interested. We care about what we do, and so the music and the art is really important to us, but we just don't have the time to listen to your 6-minute video about one project, or to dig really, really deep to find a video that really gives us an indication of the type of performance that you're going to give us. If you can, in the first couple of steps, let us know I guess the feel of your performances, the different the different options available. If you're working with a larger group, if you can also perform as a duo, if you can, if you're bringing in guest artists and then you do something that's a completely different style from the first example. If you can do that and then make it very easy for us to contact your management or whoever it is that's going to be responsible for helping us book you, that's really important. I've commented many times with my colleagues that with a lot of the younger artists, they make it like a treasure hunt to find contact information. I just don't understand. It's kind of like you can catch me on Instagram or you can catch me. I don't want to catch you on Instagram. I want an email or a phone number so that I can quickly make that connection. And that's what I could add to.
Yeah.
There's something about doing a little bit of homework before you're reaching out, and with the volume of information. Take a look back if you're about to contact a venue and see what they presented in your genre in the past 2 or 3 seasons, and that'll give you a pretty good understanding as if your project is right. Not to mean that we stay in those boxes all the time, but if it's a Broadway house and you're sending in jazz stuff, it might be a little bit of a question in that regard about using each other's time. So doing a little homework about the venue is important. So it really starts even before you contact the booker.
So as part of this, as part of planning for this panel, we actually put out a call for people to submit their work. And I'm just curious, you don't need to identify yourselves, but, I would love it if you just raise your hands. Who here actually did submit material for review? Okay, great. A lot of you. Fantastic. We've all looked at it, and we've reviewed it, and we're going to sort of share some of the highlights. I think some of the things that we're really thinking are working the best, so we can give you some concrete examples of what's being discussed on stage. So first up, I think we're going to talk about 3 different websites that. At least 2, if not 3, of the panelists on stage all agreed were really effective for them. So this isn't just one person saying, yeah, I think this works. This is multiple people from these very different places saying, yes, I can really navigate this well, and this is really working for me, and this is everything that I'm looking for. So can we?
Yeah. Carlo, do you mind if? Yeah.
So Meg Akura, who I apologize if you're here and I'm mispronouncing your name. Georgina and Janis, I know you guys both found this website to be very effective, and I wonder if you can each talk a little bit about why.
You want to go first? Sure, I can go first. I think when you open the homepage, you immediately know who she is, what she does, any accolades that she got. So at the top, underneath her name, immediately it says jazz composer, violinist, but also visually you can see exactly what she does. So I don't have to figure out who is she, what is she, what am I looking at? I've got it immediately. You immediately see a press review. There's a header at the top where it's home, about the different projects she offers, her discography. You can find out about her new album, you can stream, and then you can contact. And then this is just in, in the homepage. If you scroll down, you can see her different projects almost immediately, the 3 different options you have for booking her. You see what's new, you see her events immediately, what's coming up on her calendar. She does have her past events. I do think it is important to either split out your past events or to say, or give examples of where you played in the past. Sometimes I've seen people who list all their events from 2008, and you have to scroll all the way to the bottom to find out what's happening in 2019. Just take them off the website, list where you played in the past, because we want to know what's coming up now. Again, good reviews coming through down at the bottom. iTunes, everybody that supports her. At the bottom, you find her email, press contact, booking. One of my biggest pet peeves, and I know a lot of people like it, is when you go to contact, it's a contact form. I have to put in my name, I have to write you your message. Some people can deal with it, drives me nuts. I just want to hit an email or I want to give you a phone call. So if you're comfortable with sharing it online, I think it's really great. It doesn't have to be your personal Gmail. It could be booking at XXXX, or booking at bookingtabor@gmail.com. It's just a much easier way for me to get in touch with you. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. She also has a section where she lists her education offerings. I think as venues, all of us are venues that strongly use artists as educators. If you are an artist who has education offerings, put it on your website somewhere, and all the different education offerings you can do, master classes, lectures, working in the schools. It's also a place where there's funding. So I might be able to offer you a certain fee for performance. There's a lot of funding for education. So if you can tie in something else that can typically help increase your compensation. Something that I think would benefit, because she does have a larger ensemble, is having a tech writer somewhere on the website, and maybe you have it somewhere. But as a lot of us, before we get in touch with you, need to also kind of budget out what we're going to do. Not that we might not be having a conversation at the same time, but an area, especially if you're a larger ensemble, where you have your tech writer, is helpful, because can we even afford to bring you in, or just to figure it out? And staying somewhere, I can be flexible, I can bring a smaller ensemble, I can figure out backline. But I think having your tech writer easily accessible is helpful. So that were some of my initial thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Georgina covered. Some of the things that I guess I could add to it was that when I opened up the page, again, very professional looking, very polished, and it was inviting. She's holding this instrument. I can't really, she has the violin, but there's something else that she's holding? Okay. But I was intrigued by that. I wanted to know more about that instrument. So that made me, I started to think about what she would do during the performance, bringing something that's different, that's unique to the performance. Also, the video that she provides on the homepage, on the first page, is at the Blue Note, which lets me know that her group has performed at established venues, which means she's going to know how to work with me. Also, makes it very easy to find the images that we need, the quotes, and different things so that we can promote her performance. And she also has, when you go all the way up to the bar and you click on those things there, they're different, the pages are different, and there's a little bit more information than what you find if you scroll all the way down. But you don't have to go to those bars. You can just scroll down and find everything that you need. And that's really what it comes down to. Give us what we need so that we can get to know you. We know what you're going to bring to the performance. You give us what we need in order to promote the performance, and also just give an idea of what kind of performances we can expect. And lastly, the contact information was there, very easy to navigate. And I think that you had a pop-up where you could, something to sign on to the, your mailing list, something like that? Right. Right, which means she's going to help me promote her performance. And I guess that's, yeah, right there.
Yeah, I will say, having a pop-up or having somewhere where you can join the mailing list tells us as presenters that you're an active promoter, because we're looking for partners to help us as well.
Can I just jump in really quickly? The self-promotion thing is a great concept, and we have a marketing coordinator at the Clarice after the season that is booked to go to every artist's website on the season to make sure that they've actually put their date with us on their own website and with a link to our website so people can buy tickets. There was a leading venue that did a survey about website traffic a few years ago and discovered that a tremendous percentage of their traffic was coming from people going to the individual artist page first. So do yourself a favor and make sure those two things are connected as soon as the performance is booked.
That's a really important point. Next up, we have an artist that Janis and Bobby, I think you guys both really agreed on, which is Ben Wilcox Page. Maybe Bobby, could you start?
Yeah. Is Ben here? Is he? He's still at lunch. I think that I like this because it was sort of whimsical, but it also sort of told you exactly what was happening, what the web page was about right off the bat. I think I always look for getting to good live video clips with good sound, preferably from a board feed, not from your Zoom sitting on the bar. So good sound, but live clips are really important, and then also, of course, any recordings, albums you've done. If I can get to that in 2 clicks or less, it's really great. And then I think particularly with Ben, looking at he's a collaborator. He has a very specific show in the Swing Show, and he does education. He has the lessons link. So right there at the top, you sort of know, here's who I am, what I'm about. Here's a specific project-based show that I'm doing, and then here's me as an educator, and all those things are lined up right at the top. So I think that was pretty terrific. Janice?
Yeah, I looked at there was a video, I guess that was sort of that was under the EPK kind of version of it. But what I liked about the video that he has on the other piece that we were offered to review was that he's telling a story. You can immediately figure out what's the vibe of the performance. He shows the different options, so you know how many people are in the band. You know what you can kind of guess what the backline requirements would be, and understand what the stage plot would be if you booked this group. Too bad we can't show the video here. But one thing that I noticed on the video that I'm referring to was that he had a lot of quotes, but he didn't have who the quotes were attributed to. There were a few quotes that had names of the people that offered that quote, but on others there was nothing there, so it was kind of like, who said these things? Also, just as the video that I'm talking about, just as it got to be a little too long, it ended, and then the contact information was there so that I could go and, if I was interested, contact to get the additional booking information that I needed. But maybe we can share that video because it was very compelling for me. It was very inviting.
Okay.
I wanted to know more about the group after watching the one
Okay.
particular video.
We'll try to pull that. I don't know, Georgina, if we can pull that
Okay.
up, but we can try to pull
Okay.
that up in a second. And then the final one, for the ones that everyone was sort of in agreement upon, was Carlia Lynn, or Linnae, I'm not, Linnae, sorry, apologies, who's here. Janis and Bobby, I think you both agreed that this was a very effective website as well. Janis, do you want to keep
okay.
going?
Yeah, I'm talking a lot today. I thought that her EPK was really basic, but it was enough. Wasn't I could find what I needed. I immediately get to see her and get a sense of her style from the photo, and then there's another photo that's I don't know if we can find it, but it's kind of a darker photo. So this is more of a fun. That previous one was more kind of fun and lively, and the other one was more moody, so it gave me different options for how I might want to present her. If you scroll down, you can find 4 tracks, which is just enough, so we can hear her. We don't want to hear a whole lot, we just want to hear a sample. The bio was brief, but again, it told me enough, and then there were some testimonials. And what I thought, the strength in hers was that it was just enough. If I wanted more, there were ways to find out more information. The one thing that I would add is that you need to find a way to get a quality video, The video that I found there was, I think it was with Sasha Vassandani, who's another wonderful vocalist, but I didn't, it wasn't your best representation of your talent. And so maybe get somebody to show up at one of your shows and just a snippet. It could be one song. It doesn't have to be a really long video because we don't want to listen to all of it. We want to, but we don't. We don't have time because we need to be able to get to the next artist. And I think that's the key. Give us enough so that we can enjoy you, book you, and then move on to the next. If it takes too long, then we might say, get back to, well, we continue to review her later because it's too much information.
I'm hearing like a quality, not quantity sort of theme
Yeah.
running throughout almost everything here. You don't need 30 photos. You need 4 good photos. You don't need
Right.
16 clips. You need 1 really good clip.
In
yeah, go ahead,
in terms of video, I think there are really 2 types of videos, and we really need both as a venue. And the first type is just seeing the actual performance without anything, and then there's the kind of sizzle reel or conversational thing where you hear music for 22 seconds, and then it goes into you with a voiceover talking about, what inspired the album or whatever. And so the latter kind is really important or can be helpful when the show is booked, when you're marketing it, right? Because you can, if I have something that's performance ready enough to just put on the venue website that gives our audience an articulation of you is great. But the previous kind of just the performance is what we're really, I think, looking at to book typically. So having both, and video technology, editing technology is getting easier and easier to use, and somewhat affordable to hire a professional videographer. And I think if you don't have good quality video of you at your sort of your best performative self, that's worth the investment.
Yeah, I will say that a lot of artists will send me their more EPK video, which is them talking about their new project. I really prefer to just hear you sing or hear you play your instrument or see the product. As Bobby said, it's great for marketing to audiences, and I definitely want to hear that story. But if you're going to send that, send either both, or don't just send the EPK to promote the new album, because I want to hear a song without you talking over it.
So to interrupt our flow for 1 second, you just made me think of a question, which is how important is the story and the biography? I mean, obviously you want to find out a little bit about this person, but sort of beyond the facts, how important is that narrative to each of you when you're thinking about who to book?
I could say it's important because after we book the artist, we have to sell the experience, or what we I guess what we're selling the idea of some kind of experience for the audience, and you need to know a little bit about the artist in order to do that. I mean, just a regular press release that's fine, but even in designing the marketing for the performance, having some idea of who this person is and what they're about and their style helps to engage the audience. So I think it's important.
I think context of if you're working on a particular thematic project without opening an aesthetic can of worms about making music about things, the information about what that project is about is really important, the context information. We had Jameel Brown doing his project a few years ago that used these samples of these Parchman Prisman work songs, which was an extraordinary project, and he made this beautiful website, and it was very clear, right when you go there, what the project was aesthetically and what it was about. And so I think telling your personal story, but also if you have a particular thematic material or source for the project that you're presenting at that time, that's also important.
Yeah, I think having a point of view as an artist, obviously you all do, but describing that to presenters and to audiences is, as everyone has said, very important. I think sometimes you can feel that you want to change maybe what you're saying to fit a venue, but I would recommend that you don't, and that you stay true to who you are, even if it might not be the right fit for where you're pitching, and finding that kind of sweet spot of meeting in the middle. So I do think it is, there are so many tremendous musicians out there that what will set you apart is having a creative point of view about the music that you're trying to create and articulating that well to your audiences.
So we, in the process of reviewing, had some consensus, and we just went through those. But there were actually 3 other websites I wanted to draw our attention to where each one of you had very strong, very positive feelings about a website, and not that other people had negative, but it didn't, pop up for anybody else. And so I'm hoping we can just take a look at some of those, because I think that really might speak to how a certain narrative or a certain style might work for one venue and might not work for another, might not work for another at a certain time. So Simon Lasky's, I think Georgina,
Yep.
you had a lot to say about.
Yeah, sure. I think my personal aesthetic, and we have a full team of people that work on programming, so we all have different styles, so we all think different things, but I prefer a very clean, easy, navigable look. For me, this was very easy to go to the homepage. It doesn't assault me. It's a very clean layout. The picture subtly tells me what he plays. He lists a very brief accolade under his group, so I kind of am like, oh, I don't necessarily know what the British Composer Award is, but maybe I should find out. Maybe it's a good thing. It's very easy to hear part of his music on the homepage. He has all his social media icons at the top. You can see Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, also the little link to email him. I can see that he's trying to buy his mailing list. The first time you come here, there's a pop-up that says, join my mailing list, so that makes me feel like we can do something together. I did have a few critiques. While the bones are here under albums, I would like to see embedded links. So you see here that he has the albums. You can go get it on Amazon, iTunes, and Spotify, which is great, but I kind of want to stay on the website. I would love to see a few embedded links with a few choice songs of what he absolutely wants me to hear. Under downloadable photos, even though I know the aesthetic is black and white and it has a really great look to it, we use color. All of our brochures, all of our websites. So have 2 different options. If you're going for the kind of black and white vintage look, have something color though that I can download, because that's part of what we need as well. If you have education offerings, and I mentioned this before, please include them somewhere on your website. It is really important, especially for many nonprofits. Maybe not so applicable to clubs, but for nonprofits, a lot of us have educational arms, and that's something that we look for. And then if you have too many videos to choose from, I think that was another thing I wanted him to streamline his videos a little bit. They're just too many for me going here. I would put your top 3 or 4 and just keep it at that. No tour dates are listed on this website, so that was another thing. There should be a section for touring, upcoming concerts, however you want to list it. But for me, it was just very easy to navigate. That was a big part for me. I could find everything I needed. There's some things that can be improved, but the bones were here for something that was really easy for me to figure out quickly whether or not it was an artist I can book.
Janis, you had, and again, apologies if I mistake the name, Roby Botos as,
Subscribe to my mailing list.
yeah, I'm not sure if you're here. You are? How do I pronounce your name?
Last name is Botos.
Botos, okay.
Imagine if there was an H at the end, Botos.
Got it, okay. Janis, go ahead.
Sure. Can you make that mailing list thing go away?
Yes, I can.
And then,
She doesn't want it. She doesn't want it.
okay, he has a video, and I don't know if we can, are we able to?
Yep. We can't do
Can't
sound
do-
right now, but.
Oh, okay, that's okay, that's okay. But I can just, no, it's neither one of those. It's the, he's discussing his project, Old Soul. And I personally hadn't heard of Roby, but after I started to watch the video, his hands are on the piano, so that, again, lets me know what he's about to do, that he's a keyboard, piano, and Hammond player, or, right? Keyboard, yeah.
Keyboard, yes.
And was very inviting, very, very well done. Maybe you want to learn more about the artist. He shows some of the players that he's working with on the project, and he starts to discuss the project. It's a very interesting story Talks about his background. Again, as I said earlier, it's helpful for us when we're selling an artist that our audience might not already be familiar with. We need that information so that we can tell the story and get people interested and engaged. And he did a very nice job of discussing the project, which lets me know that when he's on stage, he's going to talk to the audience. He's not just going to play this project and then people in the audience are wondering, well, what was that song or what did that mean? He's going to actually stop and talk about it, which is very important. I'll say specifically for my venue, we're all about storytelling, and people want to know why the artist is playing what they're playing, why they wrote it, and what it means. He also included some of the artists that are very well known, like a Corey Henry or Lionel Lieke, and so that was helpful because it gave us an indication of what the rest of the project would sound like. And then I enjoyed it up until like 4 minutes. And then my started to shut down. It was too much. It was too long for my purposes. And then I started to scroll. I kept scrolling to the end. And exactly how long was that video? Do you remember?
It's a pretty long one. I can't remember.
It's super long. It's super long.
It's a jammy track, so.
Right. Very interesting, but super long. I stopped at not even 4 minutes, maybe like 3 something. And then I scrolled all the way to the end so that I could find your contact info. What I would suggest is if there's a way to put that on the video, maybe at the very beginning where you talk about it, then flash, management, contact somebody, I don't know. And then something maybe on the lower right-hand corner, you have a number or an email so that wherever we are in that video, we can see who to contact instead of having to find it all the way at the end. And I kind of felt badly about it, but I was worn out at that point. So I think, again, making sure that the information, in order to get in touch with you, is very easily accessible and that you don't wear us out with the information. It's just, you don't want too much. This is a first impression. It's like being at a dinner party and someone sits down and they start to talk to you and they're very interesting, but they keep talking and talking, and you're looking around trying to figure out, can someone come and get in here, or how am I going to get up and walk away? And I think that's kind of, if you think about it that way, you're introducing yourself to someone and you want to make your best impression, so giving your best and keeping it brief. That's what I...
It's interesting, as somebody who works with audio a lot and does some presentations just with audio where we want to play examples for an audience like you guys, we have a really hard 90-second to 2-minute rule where you can almost see, if you play something longer than that, you can almost see people start to move at 2 minutes and indicating that they're starting to feel uncomfortable. Now that's different because that's in a public setting, but I almost wonder if that guideline, might kind of apply to some of the stuff featured on the websites, that you're probably not going to listen for more than, it seems like, 2 to 3 minutes.
Unless I absolutely love it.
And then you're listening just to probably listen to the music,
Because I like it.
not to really learn so much, right?
And not for the purposes of booking.
Right,
Yeah, you kind of know
right,
in the very beginning
yeah.
what you want to do with that artist.
And our last featured website is Laurie Williams. Is Laurie here?
She's at lunch with Ben.
Okay.
I liked this website because it told us who Laurie was immediately and that we knew that she was an artist. I mean, the combination of the very impactful photo, the first one, and then the ones that follow, and then that quote, "The words are powerful, speak wisely," really sort of tells you in a very compact way. And then, of course, all the other things that everyone else has mentioned was there and present and up to date and all those things. But I think that the main point that I wanted to make about this was that impact that Laurie was able to achieve through that first page. So trying to find a way to do that in a way that is authentic to you and your artistry is the most important thing I wanted to get across.
Go ahead.
Ask you about, did you notice the video, I think, or there was a clip?
I did. I saw the clip later.
There were a lot of videos.
Yeah.
And then there was a clip that was an interview.
I don't think I saw that one. I think it was the sort of intro that really snagged me.
Yeah, this was very great. This is really powerful, the images, because you can, again, kind of get a feel for what that artist is like. But I think that whatever page I was on, there was a clip, and the first one that I got to was music and then her talking. And I wanted to hear
More music.
the music, and so that would be my tip.
I think one way to think about this, and this is not a web design session, thank goodness, because I certainly haven't figured that out, but I think of it as tiers of information, TIER, tiers of information. So what's the most important thing that you want folks to see right off the bat? And then, I'm going to want to read your bio and find out where you went to school and what your artistry is about in 4 paragraphs, but that doesn't need to be the first thing that I see. So think about, as we talk about attention spans, because I don't think they're getting longer, thinking about ways to get the most impactful information and then have the more in-depth information that comes later or is present but not the first thing that you see.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times people talk, this is your elevator pitch. You know, if you're stuck in an elevator for 30 seconds to a minute, how are you going to get across what you stand for? So I think the homepage of your website, the email that you send, an EPK, official EPK, if you choose to design one, has to kind of try to get that across, whether it's a good photo, whether it's a great video link. It just has to be, it kind of has to sock you in the stomach in the best way possible.
Thank you, guys. As I just wanted to let everybody know who submitted material, but who we haven't discussed. Really graciously, everyone on the panel has said that they would send some individualized feedback to you all with some constructive criticism or some things that they really liked. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It'll probably happen over the next few months, but so you can look for that if we didn't get a chance to talk about your material today. So I think we've been really talking about what works, and I think it warrants everybody maybe getting off of their chest some of their pet peeves or what really doesn't work. I mean, we've talked about that a little bit, but I'm wondering if there are any points that any of you would like to talk about of just like, if I see this one more time.
Yeah, I got one.
Okay.
If you think you need a flash intro for your website, go to doineedaflashintro.com and it will tell you that no, you do not need a flash intro. I think, I don't know if people are still doing that, but definitely not that, or auto-playing music as soon as I click on it. That's in the past now, so that's key.
Want some choice.
I want some choice. I want some choice about when I'm bombarded with sound. Yeah.
Yeah, I will agree to that because you don't know where we are. You could be sitting, in the quiet section of the Amtrak car, and you're like, "Oh, wow, this
They'll
was
get
not."
mad at you for typing too loud.
They'll
in the
scream.
car. Yeah.
But yeah, that being said, I think making sure, and I'm not a web designer, making sure it looks good on a mobile platform. And I think Bobby mentioned this earlier. A lot of times you're on the go, you're on a long subway ride for an hour and a half, and if your website is difficult to navigate on mobile, that's really hard. So really checking that as well. I think I mentioned one of my big ones, which is contact information. I need an email and a phone number because, especially around here, for jazz, it could be 3:00 and our bass player isn't here and we need somebody by 5. So, if I can't get in touch with you right away, that's challenging. Emails, I think just to be aware, they said, I think Bobby compared it to a fire hose of people coming at you. We do get a lot of emails. I do want everybody to know we do read them. If we don't respond immediately, it's not anything about your artistry or who you are as a person. Sometimes there'll be a big list of people on a Post-it by my computer, and it's just a matter of when is there going to be space and time, and when is it a fit. And there are a lot of people in the room with us. I wish I could say that every day I just get to come in and say, you can have a gig. But there, board of directors, there is an artistic director typically at any institution. There are many different players that come into the decision-making process. So I think when you're emailing presenters, don't be afraid to email multiple times, but also don't be personally offended if it doesn't happen right away. Multiple emails don't just kind of re-forward the same email that you've been sending. So I think if there's new information coming up, so you've emailed a couple months, you haven't heard anything, to email back and say, oh, I now have a new album out, you can check on click this link here, or I now have a gig in your city coming up, I would love for you to attend. Find a new way to engage, but don't stop. Don't stop reaching out. That is part of the information as well. So.
Any pet peeves?
Well, I think I mentioned, we were supposed to stay positive in the first part and not really come up with the pet peeves. But I think that, as Georgina said, being able to find that contact information really easily is so important. And, there are a number of artists that I've done the, hey, catch me on Instagram, find me on Facebook thing, and you send a message and then you don't get any response. And so it's either that's not working or they just aren't responding. And so I guess the next thing that I would say is that if people contact you to ask for more information, respond, because sometimes we're working on quick turnaround, as you said. We might have a spot, or we might have, I have a festival, and I might want to fill a spot with a new up-and-coming artist. I need that information right away, and I also need you to be able to send me all of those other things, the photos. If I can't find them on your site, I need that rider, I need all of that. So be ready to provide that information. I think that one thing that we talked about on the phone was, we mentioned attitude.
Yeah, well, I was just going to move into the intangibles, so
Yeah,
please.
and I think that everybody's busy, this is business, but I think if you can handle yourself in a very professional, very pleasant way, life is short. There are a lot of great artists out here. If you're the one that's really difficult to work with, we're not working with you. Or if we do, we're never doing it again, and so that's just really, I think, and not that presenters are always really pleasant, that's not the case, but try to kind of, go high, when you find those situations where everything might not be right to your liking. Sometimes there are situations that are unavoidable, things happen. And I think everybody at the end of the day wants the same thing. We all want a really great experience for our audience, and we want a great experience for the artist. We want to present the best art to our audiences, and so if we all work together, we can do that. So I think that's just something that's really important to me. There are people that have been really difficult to work with, and I've never worked with them again, just because it's like, why? When there are so many other artists out here
There's
that
a lot of
want to
talent.
work with you and want to handle themselves in a professional way and be pleasant.
Yeah, be a good human. The other thing I would say is how incredibly important, this is more tangible than intangible, but how incredibly important it is to be sort of hygienic in your online persona. If you have a Squarespace site that you abandoned in 2007, go ahead and get that down, because it's more important to have. You should either have up-to-date and well-crafted information than no information at all. So make sure that you're going through and making sure that 2002 isn't the first date that you see on your website. Recent stuff, or just take it down until it can be recent and constructed. So just making sure that there's all these weird abandoned buildings on the internet of.
Well, that's exasperating
artists'
for
website.
you, right?
Yeah,
To kinda
because
have
then
to
you go and you're
navigate
like, nah, I
through.
can't find this,
Yeah.
and that you got representation, but you didn't, whatever. And so think
And
about that a lot.
I said this in an earlier panel, Google yourself every now and then. And typically, if somebody's like, Laurie Williams is a great jazz singer, I might just Google Laurie Williams, jazz singer, and just see what comes up. Because if the first thing that comes up is your outdated website from 2007, or kind of your high school band performance, let's work on what is out there on the internet. I think that is really important. Don't be afraid to do that weekly, So.
We're right on time, actually, to open this up to you all to ask questions. So I want to thank everybody so much for reviewing all of this material. This was a lot of work, and I really appreciate it. I'm sure everyone in the audience really appreciates it. We're going to put one more list up on the screen, just so people people have been writing, furiously taking notes, which is great, but here are some of our
copies you can take as well at the end.
tips
so.
and pieces of advice. But I wanted to, that's amazing, all of the cameras.
I wish it fit the whole thing, but I do have photocopies too, so. And then our
Regular
contact.
old-fashioned
There you go.
paper.
There you
I
go.
also wanted to invite, there's a microphone in the center of the room, so anyone who has specific questions, please step up to the microphone, and you can,
Should we just take them and pass them
Yeah,
around?
you can just, yeah, do you want to just pass them through there? Yeah.
yeah, maybe give some to each side.
Yeah, like.
And
the
if
side
if
pass-
I run out, I'll make more copies and just come find me later.
Go ahead, first question.
Hi, I'm Raquel. Thank you so much for all the information. I just have two quick questions. You talked a lot about videos and what you're looking for in that regard. I'm wondering if you actually would listen to tracks without visuals, because I just hear about that a lot, and I'm never sure whether that's actually paid attention to.
Yeah, I absolutely do, and you need both. And bonus points for getting it so that I can get your album into my device. So it's not a bad thing to have, your album in the Booker's recently added, because it's going to pop up, as they're listening to music. So both are important.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, if, for example, especially I know for kind of newer artists that are coming up, if you don't have good video yet, if you have an opportunity to invite us to a show that's coming up until you get that, I'll do, especially being in New York City, we'll do that as well, so.
Good to know.
Same thing. I think that the most important thing is, again, being able to hear, if we can't see, if the only option is a video with tinkling glasses and, people in the background, don't put that up there.
Right.
So the clips are just fine.
Gotcha. And then this was also briefly touched upon, but I personally, when I see bios that are like 4 paragraphs long, I really don't read them. And it's always just interesting to see sort of the ratio between, your background, your childhood, and, your present day and all of these things. So I'm just wondering, in terms of bios, what is really what you're looking for in that?
I think one of the things that I think is very effective is having different length bios on your website or different length downloadable bios. I think as wonderful as it is to know that you were born on a small farm in Illinois, as your leading sentence, I'm more interested in kind of what you're doing musically. So I think leading with something that's really about your music and your creative vision, that's relatively brief, that tells me in a paragraph who you are as a musician, and then having an option for a longer bio that I can be like, oh, that was really interesting. I want to get into more about what the history is. Kind of practicing having different lengths for your bios for reaching different audiences.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jim Clayton. I submitted some stuff. I'm not griping. I really enjoyed what we saw, but I didn't submit the website because there's a virus issue and it's under reconstruction, which is fun. I did submit a one sheet and a standalone video, high quality, uploaded to Vimeo, I think. I did this based on when I was with a group that had an agency this was like 2003, and this is what was done. So I guess my question is, am I a dinosaur? Is this, are these things not used anymore? Do you want a PDF of a one sheet?
Yeah. So I'm here for the Association of Performing Arts Professionals Conference as well. And there's an exhibit hall there that has probably, 500 booths? And every one of those artist managers typically have between 5 and 20 artists. And so those one sheets are in some ways helpful because it gives you some immediate information about the artist that's right there, but
You wind up with 5 pounds of paper.
yeah, and I'm going to have to carry that on the quiet car back to DC. So it should not be the only thing you have for sure.
Okay,
But
so the website's a huge priority
Absolutely.
over,
Yep.
even as a PDF?
Yep. no question. If you're at a place like this or at a booking conference where the immediacy is important, then having something tangible is good. I went to the Inartes conference in Mexico City, which was amazing, but everybody there is using the little, the USB things.
Right.
So I came home with a bag of USBs like that, which is incredible, but, it's just, about managing information.
Is the one sheet, because it does cost money to have it designed and done, not a lot, but it's something. Is it even worth having done it all and having as a link on the website? Is anybody going to use that?
I don't.
I don't use it, but.
Okay.
I
Well,
mean, but I think the thing that unfortunately about this is we're kind of giving you best practices, but it is a very human game, and everybody is very subjective and different. So there might be a presenter somewhere else who said, no, absolutely.
Right.
But to the best of my knowledge, I think generally we're all like, yeah, we don't really use it anymore. But
Okay. All right, thanks.
Just to quickly piggyback on your question, is the same true for you when you receive albums in the mail as opposed to, links in email or a website with a downloadable? Are you frustrated?
CDs?
Yeah, are you frustrated by receiving?
Well, I haven't.
CDs, or
Yeah,
is
I haven't
that
bought a
too
CD in a few years. I buy vinyl, and most vinyl that you buy at shows now has a download code. A specific download code. But if I get CDs in the mail, which happens about 8 to 12 times a week, unless it's like completely outside, I have one disk drive left, and I rip it in, and it goes into my iTunes, and I'll listen. Yeah.
I listen to the vinyl and the CDs as well.
yeah,
When you send me a CD, I listen to it.
same. I still use CDs sometimes, yeah.
I don't require it. But
Yeah,
I
it's
will
not
listen.
required, yeah.
Hi, my name is Asaf Kehati. First, thank you for this. 2 quick questions. I guess when you get websites from people, it's through mainly probably emails. People email you. So any suggestion for how important or what to put in the subject line, like your name, certain dates? Like there's so many different ways to do it. Certain project, or what's you more likely to open?
Name, genre, instrument. That's what. Yeah.
Like Asaf Kehati, jazz, guitar. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you mentioned earlier, I think you mentioned, somebody did, about knowing the venue before, or having some familiarity with the venue. So if you were contacting me and you're a jazz artist, and you're interested in my festival, you might say, I'm interested in the festival in the subject line, because that helps me to sort those things out. But if you're a dancer, then you might say you're interested in the dance series. So I think that having some idea of what the venue does on a regular basis, and that will help you to get.
Thank you. The other thing, it's personal, but maybe it can apply for other people. What I started doing these days with the new project is instead of having my website up there, just saying, like, say, hi, my name is this and this. My new project is about this and this and that. It has a certain concept. Here are 2 one-minute videos, kind of trailers, that you can watch. Let me know if you like them, and we'll talk, or that might have you actually come back to me. Maybe it's too pain in the ass, or it's actually better, or,
I mean, it's to the point.
Yeah.
You tell us,
It's-
telling us what you want. It's not like, hey, how you doing? Yeah, I was born on the farm in Wisconsin and all that. To the point. That's what we are looking
Okay, so you think that's a good approach. Here are 2 quick videos. Let me know if you like them. We'll keep talking or something like that. And have, again, my email and phone number there,
Yep.
too. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And then I think
Yeah.
for, in the header of the email, if it is applicable, new album coming September 2019, or whatever a timeline might be, can be helpful as well. Not required, but just knowing where it kind of falls and what our planning would be.
Okay, thanks so much.
Hey, John Thomas, jazz piano.
Well done, well done, well done.
So my question is about reaching back out. Is there an ideal or unideal window for doing that? When is possibly too far in the future where you may have forgotten the artist, or you may not remember the initial email, or when may be too soon?
depends on the time of year and where we're at personally in the email shame spiral, because December and January is the shame spiral is going down pretty fast because everybody's trying to set up meetings for APAP, right? And so it's like there's just absolutely no way that I'm going to get back to everybody, and that bothers me a lot. So it depends on the time of year, and one of the things that has been really helpful for folks in the past is they'll write to me and I'll say, this is great, I don't have anything right now, and they'll say, well, when can I holler at you again? And then I'll say, well, we'll start booking jazz for 2021 in the late spring, and so then in April they write back and say, just put back on your radar, and that's kind of great too to sort of ask that question if you do get a response.
Yeah, I do want to, I think booking timelines are really important, and trying to understand different venues, what their booking timelines are. So for Jazz at Lincoln Center, we've already booked the main stage season for 2019 through 2020. We are starting 2020-21 right now. So really thinking that long term about what you're going out with, it's not too early to talk about 2020. It's not too early to talk about 2021. It is definitely too late to talk about Dizzy's for June 2019 right now. So I think understanding and asking the presenter exactly, what are you looking for? What time period are you booking for right now? But I think it is important to keep staying in front of them. Because if you wait 6 months till I hear from you again, I might be like, oh, that's right, I had John Thomas on my list, but I haven't heard from him. He must be okay. So it's just, yeah.
The other thing is that every booker, I think, it has varying degrees of how much they're out seeing work live. I'm up here usually about once a month, and so I'll find an anchor show or two that I absolutely need to see in a particular time period, and then I'll accessorize around it. So I am going to look at the jazz venues I'll say, well, I've got a late night Friday night free, and sometimes I'll see 7 shows in 48 hours. So if I have a late night free, and you're at Smalls or whatever, being able to go and know that I can go, or if you've said it in an email, here's a big thing that I'm doing, I may build around that too, so that's important.
So, I guess that doesn't really answer your question about when we should email out. But just keep
asking.
It
emailing.
depends, John.
It depends, yeah. I have weeks where I'm like, yes, I'm answering every email, it's going great. And then we have weeks where we're, because I think the other thing is, like, in addition to booking, I wish we were listening to music all day, but we're also producing a show in Rose Theater, or we also have a club in Shanghai. There's something going crazy at JALC Shanghai, and I don't have a visa for this artist that's leaving tomorrow. So I'm at the consulate, all day until 3 p.m. And, so it just, I wish I had a better answer. But I think the hats that we wear are different. So it's like we have this booking job, but then we also have this very heavy administrative job, and then we have all the meetings that we have to sit in with all our internal constituents, that we have to sell the show that we want to book now to the marketing department. And we have to go to the development department and say, can you raise funds so that we can book X? So that's just, again, not answering your question, but email us.
It's helpful.
Email us.
Thank you. And we have about 5 minutes left, so I'm hoping that everybody remaining can
Speed
ask
round.
one question, please. Thank you.
Okay, I'll narrow it down to one then. So, my name's Angie Wells, and I am a jazz vocalist. I'd like to know how you feel about when you receive things. Do you prefer something coming from management? Are you more likely to look at someone who's represented, or more likely to look at an independent, or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter if we love the music. Because of the small number of things that we're doing every year and the way that the series works, we are typically working with artists that have management. But I can remember a couple of artists in particular, the Westerlies, the brass quartet, that a contemporary composer tweeted about them, and I clicked on the link and heard them, and I gave them their first sort of out-of-town gig like that day. And I saw Too Many Zoos playing in the subway station on Facebook and booked them to open our first Next Now Fest like the following day. So,
I think, not everything is a pitch either. We are also going into it with ideas about who we want to book and who we want to present. But that being said, it's never really mattered to me whether it's a manager or an agent or an artist. I think everybody kind of deserves equal treatment and being listened to, and But for some presenters, it might matter. You know,
I've
that
actually
is-
had
yeah.
someone tell me they
Yeah.
didn't want to be
Wanna be-
bothered with
yeah.
people who had management. I have management,
Yeah.
but it really kind of freaked me out. I thought it was a little strange.
Didn't?
Yes, and I'm not going to say the name of the club. Yes, I won't say the name of the rather large venue in LA. But yeah, as a matter of fact, the booker there said, because I live in LA, I said, I don't like to work with managers.
I think,
okay.
let me just say one quick thing, and we're going to go on into the driving on the edge of the road for a second. But when you're talking to us, when we get to the point where we're talking about money, I think the value of managers is they know the business side.
Right.
And when they say, here's a fee, and I say, well, how about this? What they hear is Bobby cares a lot about artists, and he's trying to serve as many artists and his audience as best he can with the money that he worked really hard to raise. And sometimes what artists hear is, you just devalued my soul. So when you get to that point, you know, when you get to that point, by all means, please know that we're here because we love what you do, and we care about our audiences and all artists, and work with us in that regard.
Thank you. Don't forget my name. I'm trying to get on the East Coast.
Hi there, I'm Charlotte Felcher. I have a public relations business, and I also represent Paul Jost and the Jost Project. Hi, Janis.
Hi.
So one thing I want to say is, my curiosity is I have a whole new philosophy. I think that word of mouth is a really good thing, because Janis sent me an email and said, I want to book Paul Jost. It's like, oh my God, how did you hear? And it was from Orrin Evans.
Who's Dawn just walked in the room.
Oh, she did. So I think word of mouth, I mean, I'm thinking, boy, that's really the way to get in. But then I wondered how many people take new artists. You know, that's just new artists to your venue.
I think we all do. Again, if you love the music and you're out there listening, for me, the way that I program, I give my audience what's familiar, what they love, what they say that they need, but I also want them to have those opportunities to discover something new, experience something new, or it's kind of like, I hear something that's just phenomenal and I want to share it with all of my friends or my audience. That's how I do the programming. So when I heard Paul on a video that Orrin shared, I thought, I want my audience to hear this guy. And so I think that we're all doing a little, we're finding this music a lot of different ways. The woman that was just up here, I mean, we're working with the management companies, the ones that we have relationships with. I mean, we have great relationships with a lot of different agents or managers, and we ask them, what's hot? What do we need to, you know, who are you representing right now? But then also, if there's an artist that's representing themselves and is coming with all the information that we need, which we've kind of like, you know, beat the dead horse with that, but if you're providing everything, and if you're just like super unprofessional and you're all over the place, we're probably not going to want to work with that independent artist. And then hear
Right.
from a friend. So I think that it's kind of all over the place in how we do this work.
I think you both bring up the good point that this is a very small industry. It can feel large, but we all know each other. We all talk. As artists talk amongst themselves, presenters talk to them, managers talk. You know, I used to work in the DC market, and so I've known Bobby 10 years now, and I trust his opinion. So if he emails me and says, wow, I saw this band, they're fantastic, look at this link, I'm definitely going to do that because I trust his opinion as a curator. So think about, as artists also, when you're out and about, if you've developed a good relationship with a presenter or a manager or an agent, leverage them to get to your next gig and to your next venue. Ask their permission, you know, say, I'm going to email so-and-so and say that, you know, Janis said to get in touch with you. But that's a very powerful endorsement.
Yep.
So
It's a currency for sure. I had a call one time when I was booking Jazz at Spivey Hall, and we're very close to announcing our season. It was a presenter in a rural area a long way away, and he said, when's your jazz going to go up on the website? And I said, well, it'll be a couple days. And he said, well, you need to hurry up because I usually just, after you guys announce, go and book the same artist. And, you know, it's funny at the time, it's not a bad thing because I'm on jazz.org once or twice a month seeing what's playing. And in addition to the conversation, it's about that sort of network of, oh, this is happening here, this is happening here. I miss Google Reader a lot because I used to use the feed aggregators to sort of see what other arts organizations were doing. But everybody's looking at everybody else and talking to everybody else. And
Great, thank you.
So you're right, I think, is the answer. Yeah. Okay, we have almost no time left, but I want to get these last two questions in, so go for it.
Hi, my name is Lauren Talise. I'm a jazz vocalist. And I'm fortunate because 2 of my questions of the 3 were answered.
Good.
But as an emerging artist, when pitching to a venue, either by a manager or that artist, what's most attractive? Is to have a concept in mind attractive to you guys about, a legacy artist? Or if the original material is compelling enough, are you guys willing to take a chance on actually trying to work a little bit harder for that emerging artist that doesn't have as much notoriety to get butts in the seats? Because I know that's a different animal than, say, somebody that's out there and people know.
You want to go? I'll go. I book artists all the time that no one in my region has heard of, like a Gregory Porter. I booked Gregory Porter for my first jazz festival, and nobody in Pittsburgh knew who he was. And he came out, and they were like, "Who's the guy? He's got this hat. What's up with him?" And they were blown away. And we've booked him every year since 2011.
Wow.
So that was a chance that we took. But I do that. I do that all the time. And again, as I said, my philosophy for programming, I want my audience to feel like they discovered something new, so that then they can go to their friends, their colleagues, their network, and say, "I heard this amazing artist." People like to do that. They like to feel like they were responsible, or or sharing something new. So I personally do it all the time.
Yeah, I think there are opportunities that are designed specifically for emerging artists, whether that, in our case, like our late nights sessions where the cover charge is $5, $10. So it's a very low point of entry for audiences to take the risk, and for us to take the risk on the artists to try them and to grow them. We put in place different programming partnerships with different organizations where we can provide free programming or low-cost programming that, again, is kind of low impact. It gives everybody an opportunity to get to know each other. So I do think we are willing to take the risk. I think if paying tribute to a legacy artist and doing your own original music makes sense for you as an artist, absolutely. It's a great intro for audiences who loved, I know you have like Nancy Wilson and love you, Lauren, so it's a great opportunity to meld those 2 audiences together and introduce the Nancy Wilson fans to you, but only if it makes sense for you creatively,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to force anybody to ever do something they don't want to do.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rochelle Rice. I'm a singer. A singer and composer in Washington, D.C. I wrote my question down. How much does social media, specifically follower counts and likes, factor into whether or not you book an artist? And should you include that type of info in your pitch?
I don't look at follower counts. We get that in pitches for a lot of like highly commercial music, but I don't really look at follower counts necessarily. I think as Jan said, it's about the trust that we've built with our audience. So I know if I do a Christian or Ravi Coltrane, people are going to come because they know who this artist is. But we try to present a diversity of instrumentation in every series, a diversity of known versus unknown, aesthetic diversity between sort of traditional hard bop and then very project-based contemporary work. So it's all of these sort of vectors kind of moving at once, more than it is follower counts.
Yeah, I will say quickly that a venue I used to work at, we did a more commercial series, and artistic excellence, again, I will say always comes first, but after that, there were some artists where you're like, wow, he has 25,000 followers on Twitter. He's definitely going to sell the 250 seats that we need to sell. So I think for more of us, and maybe a nonprofit or presenting free programming, it's not as important. We don't really look at it here, but I think I have worked at places where it is kind of important, or not important, but it factors into the decision, yeah.
And if you're going to help us, we talked about earlier, by being a partner and helping us to promote you or anyone as an artist in our venue, obviously having that social media presence is helpful. So if you don't have all of those numbers, that's fine. But if you do, we really want to see you talking about this upcoming gig that you have at our venue.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you again to panelists. We'll look forward to hearing all of you.
Question is,